Okay. Who are we trying to appeal to? Who, at the end of the day, could I be real with? Who, at the end of the day, could I be still without looking over my hedge? Trim the hedges on the edges. Yo, suicidal tendencies. Why you gotta creep up in me? Disperse, break this curse, break the shell cases in the shackles of this old ancient karmic misreaction. Yo, this life something but a stargate. Arcade in arcades, arcade fire is spitting, roaring through the winds through the canyon, leaving every particle trembling, settling, nothing for the less of it. Remembering, working to have a different type of memory. Memory lane is what I am walking upon. So, who are we really trying to appeal to? In one natural sense, we could be appealing to something that we're following up to learn within the environment that we're in. Or some people could be appealing to something that they don't know that is just feeding them just a standard agenda that has been proliferated through media. And through that media, certain notions of lifestyles are being promoted, and we're trained just to laugh it off, you know. And I did an earlier vid before this, and I did an underground 1 hour before this. But the earlier vid, I looked really raw, and then the underground cast, what I was talking about was just how the starting points could be more different than what we knew that we started on. What we knew that we started on, it could have been kind of different, you know. Because in the end, we're trying to appeal to something that we think has our best favor, but we don't necessarily know that things are particularly backwards in different ways we wouldn't know. So that's where the confusion lies. That's where the unnecessary discomfort lies, is within. We don't necessarily know how things are jumbled up for better or for worse by divine will, or by, you know, the exception of lesser divine will, or a little bit of both. We don't necessarily know how things are jumbled up. So like, but on a natural level, we want to appeal to something that we could resonate with without, you know, the whole notion of the manipulation being there, because the manipulation that's there, we have a different relationship with our new subconscious. And what is our new subconscious? It's our resetted version of how a certain spiritual part of ourselves, that's just the soul, that's not any of the material, it goes into different material versions of itself, and it creates a new form throughout the different orbits to land into a system for what it is. And how that system was ultimately created and correlated was by the previous powers that be from the different agencies that ultimately are privy to a certain nature and a mode of reality, be it material. And from that material, there's different portions of that material system reality. And within that system reality, there's a timeline within that we're all kind of taking a part in for very many different reasons. So within all of those different reasons, we can't really, like, who's to really judge anybody at this point? That's like, that's energetically and psychologically it's out of pocket, because we don't know like the reasons. And shout out to like, shout out to everybody like, leaning towards the good fight, even if they don't know it, because we're all going through the tribulation of just the general emotions, but not just the general emotions of like how we could, or just the general like potential partnerships that the potentiality could have died, it could have simmered down for like not constructiveness. So the potentiality, is there like a chance for it to be re-risen? Why? Because we don't necessarily know what future we're going to, and who's to say what influence that we have as an individual soul. How could we ultimately vote for the future we want? You would have to ask that yourself. It's how you're navigating yourself, your spaceship, into what actions you're doing. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. It's underneath how you're doing it. It's how you're moving underneath how you're doing it, because how you're moving, we don't necessarily know what governs our movements. What governs our movements is what we're spiritually resonating with, as far as like a whole different context of what principal means. Principality means. So this is just kind of a short one, and just seeing like, this day, it's like it is what it is, but we're growing into what has already been. Our unknowingness has been resetted, and we more or less could have known all of this, just depending on what your soul age is. And depending on what your soul age is, that's how much you could like leverage your constructive knowledge with action, and how things could be realized casually, and how things could be changed. And obviously anything like any logic that could be questioned, or like any gaps that I have within any of my surface level presented online content, it can be filled, just when the time comes. Like a question could be asked, or a claim could be opposed, or someone could quote unquote challenge me, end quote, for however the human platform could allow it, because we're still kind of like, the humans are in a neutral game of like going through some construct of limitation. So within the construct of limitation, we can only do so much based on our own capacitance to recharge, and then express charge within day-to-day events and moments of life. So like anybody can look at me side-eyed, fine, fine. Like we're all gonna, like on a neutral key, we're all gonna fucking die, But we're not necessarily seeing the background deepest agency on how life and death are governed on a different level, which is ironically the essence of longevity. Let's get this pink in here. So the essence of longevity is like how we come back from however we die, And obviously, obviously, like whether we realize it or not, there is some type of comeback from death, because why are you the way you are? Like why are you the way you are? It's why do we do what we do? It's because for whatever reason, for wherever we're at in our stage of growth, we're trying to appeal something so we could get some type of one up ahead of life. Because I know how the human brain works. It just wants to like, the conditioned part of that, the one context of the not self is your conditioned self, and the conditioned self just wants like to be quote unquote, it is what it is. It wants to be selfish. So if you're in a mode of selfishness, you already have an obvious train of thought where it's just like you're conditioned and fixed to have fixed perceptions, where like like you just want to use people to like the detriment. You want to use people where like, okay, like let's see what he got now. Oh, you're no longer relevant. So if you're no longer relevant, what use do I have for you? That's how it is. So it's up to the high spiritual advanced mature spirits to actually recognize that, and to preserve themselves in different ways, where I'm being relevant for myself, and I'm trying to act in key and not out of pocket for myself, to recognize how you're being an example of how other people could be similar to that in the audience of things, where that notion of the selfish conditioned not self has that psychology of detrimentality, where that thought trend is just like, I want to use this person, and if this person's no longer relevant, then fuck that person. That's one notion of how the conditioned not self of the human literally works. And we don't even necessarily maturely realize we're working with that thought pattern until we could break out of that mental karma, until we could break out of that psychological karma. Because if that's ultimately entertained in like anybody, we could observe it and see like, where is it coming from. And that's all, honestly, disclaimers in effect here, because if you ultimately take upon that query, that psychological query, you have to go at your own leisure, because you don't necessarily know where you could end up. That's why all these gurus that you like on a neutral level, you have to have disclaimers, because without disclaimers, then are you really taking responsibility for all the knowledge you're dishing out, or no, or you're just giving knowledge away without disclaimers and caution? That's why the world is fucked up, low-key, on one small aspect. So like, if anybody were to quote unquote challenge me, well, the reality of nature and nature's reality would make it so there is some sort of leverage of fairness in that theme, and there's some sort of leverage of susceptible for manipulation. That's the secret duality of it. That's the secret order within the chaos, and that's the secret chaos within the order. Per the resonant field, because we ultimately have to, we're not going to go into quote unquote battle without us having some type of safeguard. So the arena at one level, however it could get quote unquote rigged, there's still fail safes of a safeguard in there that we could go into if we comfortably choose to participate in whatever challenge we're going in towards within the specificity of the challenge itself. Because what are you really challenging, and how are you really doing it? Because that's why I've been doing this for a long time, and it just is what it is. I know how the human mind thinks on a neutral level. It just is what it is. It's people want to see what they're seeing, what I want that I'm going to do, and they're seeing if I could be appropriate with their level of biasedhood. And if I'm not appropriate with their level of biasedhood, then they're going to think of me that I haven't quote unquote, it's not that I haven't quote unquote been a resonant match with them on whatever they are, on a standard level, because we all have different definitions of what maturity is, who's to say that I'm immature or mature or not? No one's only God. It's like Pac said, only God could judge me. Only nature could judge me. Everybody judging casually, it's fragmented, and on an energetic spiritual level, it's out of pocket, because you're not seeing what we're coming out of respectively. But that's the thing, no one has necessarily upfronted challenged my intellect, because I already know people in the background, they're thinking let's see what he's gonna do if we take away this, but they're not gonna, and they're expecting a certain reaction, and if they don't get that expectation of a certain reaction, then they would be proven wrong, and if they do expect a certain reaction from us, then they would be proven right, and then they would, on an out-of-pocket detrimental conditioned not self-human mind level, they would justify that whatever they're doing is right based on how they're trying to critique us and analyze us and poke a hole in my spiritual case, which by all means you can do, and by all means it's ironic because I'm the one showing up for you to do that, so that's what it's for, and that's what I'm prepared for, because no one has necessarily done that. So and they're doing that because they're seeing how I'm gonna kind of respect them, or how they're people are just afraid to show their real selves, because this is raw shit. This is quote unquote, this is the day where the shadow is expressed in a very dynamic way. Halloween could be likened to that Rick and Morty episode where there's this planet where one day out of the year they all get to quote unquote kill each other, end quote. And I'm just saying that's an allegory to Halloween, But I'm not saying like that's exact. I'm not saying that's literal, but we don't necessarily know on the channels, on the channel. It just depends on the channel. But like, I'm just saying like Halloween could be an allegory to that. But I'm seeing, I'm just seeing like, people are like, they could be testing you out of pocket. They could be analyzing you out of pocket in ways we wouldn't even know, because even though you yourself could judge another, that doesn't stop everyone else on from a whatever level they're at to critique you and analyze you. But hopefully it's in the accordance and the measurements of like original nature, though. That's the thing. So so this is just my expression, like, let's see how he's going to react. But the main point I wanted to also drive home was there could be a time and place where you could like follow up on your query, and it's not about you getting proven right or wrong. It's finding some type of equilibrium or equalization with the confusion that you have and the inquiry you have, till you reach a satisfactory level of the logic actually having a different type of correctness and matching with whatever your confusion is. Because any confusion there is that you may have, it could ultimately get equalized. But that's the thing. It's like we're not necessarily on that particular mental path. And since we're not on that mental path, it's subject for the inquirer that has the lack of inquiry to be in that mode of confusion in itself. So like anything that I've like any gap in my logic, there's a time and place where it could be resurrected, where any confusion or question you might have, the answer could be resurfaced. But like this is a different type of fluidity, like I get it, like quote unquote no views on any of my videos. That's funny. That's a mouthful. So let's see how I react, and based on how we react, this level of this little mini mode of reality, certain people who have some small micro influence of power, they're going to block me or not block me based on how they're measuring maturity, based on their biasnesses and their conditionings to the reality in itself. Because the underground shit, it literally like, I don't see any leader on the planet in balance who's really about the top-notch solutions. I just don't. Because if that were to happen, then like a different recognition would have already happened, but maybe it has in the dream world, because according to like the underground shit of my content, like all of this does happen in the dream world first, and this level of reality, it's slowed down time, and we're slowing down the details to like refine them, what we could ultimately fix in a different nuanced way from what already happened in the dream world. Because all of this could have already happened in a different arrangement. Everything that we could have thought of could have already happened, but we just can't perceive it, because the purpose of this reality of Earth and the big different dualities on there, it's to slow down reality and contemplate on a casual level, and to recover from any type of like casual energy altercation that could have taken place. So thank you. I'm gonna go underground, and may your confusion be may your confusion dissipate or not.